beautiful fall colors of Simcoe County draw thousands of visitors every year. Each Thanksgiving weekend, it is also home to the Images Studio Tour, one of Ontario's finest and longest-running juried art events. For the diverse group of outstanding artists on the tour, this is an important opportunity to showcase their work in their own studios and introduce themselves to a new audience. Here are just some of the artists we followed as they prepared for this unique studio tour. Arnold Veen. Arnold Veen is a wood turner whose creations highlight the extraordinary features in woods from Ontario.
I've been on the Images Studio Tour, I'm thinking going on about 7 years now. My expectations? To connect with the public who like to see my work, who like to see any artist's work for that regard, but also to explain how my product is made and where it comes from, because there's a great interest in that. Of course, as any artist would tell you, we'd like to sell. That's our primary focus, but it's not our utmost goal. It's a part of it, definitely, because we are all generating our income from our work, but it's also connecting with the public. It's also a rewarding experience to pass on that information, because 30 some odd years ago when I started this, I was in the same boat. I didn't know what wood turning was. And if it wasn't for a friend of mine who picked it up and began to play with it, I wouldn't have done the same myself. He introduced me to it, and I was just fascinated by the whole process and what you can do with wood. First thing I do when I see a piece of wood that's a burl is I analyze the piece, and I look at it to see if there's any defects in the wood and where I need to attack it and where I need to cut it to begin with, and that will dictate what kind of shape I can get out from the burl initially. A burl this size would yield a bit larger piece, but because I'm trying to get that shape out of that burl, I'm limited to what I can make out of it. And once I've determined that, then I will put it on the lathe and I'll rough cut the bowl, and I'll make a thick copy of the bowl, and I'll let it air dry for at least 6 months to a year, and after that point I can remount it once it is dry and finish turn. So here's some examples of, like, this is from a burl. And you can see that this is a dry piece. This has been cut, I'm believing, March of this year. So about 7 months of drying. And the wood inside has irregular patterns and voids and bark sleeves, and that's why we look for them. It's because they're totally irregular. It's not your normal wood. And they have so much character and so much history to tell in the tree that this is what makes them so unique and prized. This one here is pretty solid. It doesn't have, like, even though it has a valley running through here, I know that this is a shallow valley as opposed to that one over there. So that one I could turn as one complete unit and make a really big bowl out of. Well, we're going to take a look at the stand-up poplars that are burled from top to bottom. And what makes them unique is there's got to be a stand, roughly 100 trees or so, and each one of them is burled around dead branches. Either they're diseased, or whether it's a genetic mutation in that particular type of tree that was planted here many years ago, I'm not sure. But every time I do come here, I get burl envy, because they're untouchable. Unfortunately, they're on Simcoe County Forest, Crown land. Every time I see a burl that's growing on a tree, first thing I do is I look at it and whether or not it's a good burl, whether it has pockets of rot in it or such that would make it more unusable. But if it's a good burl envy to the nth degree. And I'm always thinking what I could do with that piece and what it might look like inside, because when you cut into a burl, The wood is so unique and wonderful that it's just like opening a box of chocolates. You just don't know what's inside. See through there? But you look at that tree, it's burled from top to bottom. And they've all grown around a dead branch, which is quite unique. The poplar burls are very nice inside. They have a lot of orange and yellows and a few greens. They're all unique. They're not really big, but they are unique and they have such wonderful grains inside. I'm salivating as we speak. Once my show season starts and gearing up for the Images Studio Tour, I'm going 18 hours a day, wood turning and finishing, wood turning and finishing. Trying to make enough product to float me through to the next show. Being on the Images Studio Tour definitely has increased my business. It's a way for me to connect with the locals and show them what I make, and the word spreads from there. When I go to shows and when I go to the studio tour, is that people come in and they have no idea how I'm making it. And for me to be able to explain and tell them how I do things, it's rewarding in that regard, because if it wasn't for me being on the tour or being at an art show somewhere, they wouldn't have an idea of what wood turning is about. Here are some pieces of bitternut hickory, which I just put on the lathe this morning, so I finished the backs of them. What I have to do at this point is remount it to the lathe and turn out the inside and get my final thickness. This is a tung oil mix that I use, made especially for salad bowls. And being that this is butternut, it really drinks up the finish. Okay, so now I just have to get rid of the excess. Here we go. First coat of oil, another 3 to come in a few days. This will be ready for the studio tour in approximately 5 days. It'll be ready. It takes me 24 hours between each coat to let it cure properly. Putting on roughly 3 to 4 coats per bowl. Depends on the species of wood. Butternut will take a little bit more, so this will probably be 5 days before it's done. Plenty of time for the Images Studio Tour. Every day I'm out here working on product. After the Images Studio Tour, I'm doing the one-of-a-kind show in Toronto. So I need a lot of product to get ready. There we go. What I have to do is I have to pack all my product. I have to nest it. Being made out of wood, I have to put a layer of foam in between each piece, nest the pieces, bring them over. Usually takes me roughly 4 to 5 hours to set up for the tour. I am setting up for the Images Tour, which starts tomorrow. So I brought all my stock. And I brought my shelving and my stand, and it's just a matter of figuring out the best layout for this venue. So how are you today?
Very good.
Good, good.
Beautiful day.
Well, that's a willow burl. It's a box elder. It's a type of maple. It's the way the growth pattern is. So right in that area, the grain of the wood is standing up on end.
We've always come and look at his things because we like to do the fall studio tours. We're from Windsor, so it's. But he's one of my favorites.
So that's a yellow birch burl, and that came out of the Algonquin forest.
Natural. I like the colors, you know, the different woods, and he leaves the bark on a lot of times. It just looks so artistic. Like it just looks like he lets the wood speak to him.
I'm very happy with this weekend. The weather cooperated. We've had a lot of people come through, and it's always nice to see the people that appreciate art and are willing to take the time and visit us. It's a combination of meeting people and sales, obviously. I love this tour. It's a nice venue, and sales were terrific this week, and I'm very happy with the outcome. Images tour, love it. Come out and visit us next year.